Janelle, this one is for you. Oh, those are so pretty. I think she's here. Yep, I heard the door.
Let's try and get these in there. I think this is how.
Robyn Brown thought she could keep the details buried beneath layers of paperwork and real estate jargon, but that $2.1 million Flagstaff mansion just blew the lid off everything, not just because of the jaw-dropping price tag, but because of what it allegedly represents.
He takes care of himself. He sees what he needs to do, and he just does what is right for him and what is right for Robyn. And I think that he's going to screw Meri and Janelle completely.
While the rest of the family was still tangled up in emotional land debates and broken promises about building on Coyote Pass, Robyn and Kody were signing mortgage papers behind closed doors, a mountain of them. And now that paper trail is finally out in the open. Robyn's name, Kody's signature, and a mortgage sum that has Janelle furious because sources close to the family say she was never told, never consulted, never even warned. Just one day she looked up and Robyn had a mansion with double staircases, chandelier lighting, and a 7-figure loan.
Janelle has the perfect words to describe Kody and who he is in relation to money. This is it.
I just think he's always looking out for himself and now for Robyn and himself.
Now, let's be clear. No one's saying Robyn doesn't have the legal right to buy a home. But what has people spiraling and what allegedly has Janelle demanding answers is the timing, the secrecy, and the fact that this wasn't some modest starter home. This was a castle one bought while other wives were still living in rentals, still waiting on promises that never came. Robyn and Kody moved into that luxury property back in 2019, just as financial tensions were bubbling below the surface. And now that we know the mortgage was a whopping $1,680,000 with a rumored down payment of $420,000 in cash, the question everyone's asking is where did that money come from?
Robyn never actually got a revenue-producing job independent of what the family did together via filming the show.
Insiders claim Janelle had been under the impression that all big family financial decisions went through group discussions. But this never came up. Not in family meetings, not in one-on-one conversations, not in the show. According to one source, Janelle found out the same way fans did by seeing the loan online. And let's just say she did not take it well. She's reportedly stunned that such a massive purchase was made during a time when the rest of the family was being asked to make sacrifices. Robyn had her forever home locked in. Meanwhile, Janelle was downsizing and saving every penny. And that's when things started unraveling, because once the purchase became public, Janelle didn't just get mad, she started digging, and what she allegedly found made her even more livid. At first, it was just a mortgage number, a suspiciously large number, but once Janelle started pulling the thread, what unraveled looked a lot less like an ordinary home purchase and a lot more like a secret. The rest of the family was never supposed to find out. Public property records were the first breadcrumb. Anyone with a computer could see the purchase price, $2,100,000. But buried beneath the headlines were the real questions, the kind that don't come with easy answers, like how Robyn and Kody secured a $1,680,000 mortgage in the first place, and more importantly, how they came up with the nearly $500,000 in cold hard cash. To close the deal, Robyn never actually got a revenue-producing job, independent of what the family did together via filming the show. Because when Janelle added up everything she knew about the family's finances, their shared debts, the delays on Coyote Pass, the struggling businesses that math just didn't math, then came the whispers from neighbors from Flagstaff, locals from people who'd seen Kody and Robyn around town, but had no idea the rest of the family wasn't even living in the same tax bracket. It wasn't just that the house was big, it was pristine, gated, finished. While Christine was still stuck figuring out her next steps, while Janelle was reportedly living in an RV for a time, Robyn was unpacking china in a formal dining room the size of a hotel ballroom, and not once, not in any of the episodes airing that year, not in Kody's many monologues, did anyone mention the loan, the seven-figure mortgage, the financial commitment that would put the couple in debt for decades. According to one source close to the family, Robyn allegedly justified it by saying the house was for all of us, that eventually it would be the family home. But to Janelle, that sounds like a bait and switch, because if the home was truly meant for everyone, why was no one else involved in the paperwork? Why were the deeds in just two names? And why was the size, style, and location tailored entirely to Robyn's preferences?
Kody and Robyn shared everything. They shared the house payments, they shared the utilities, they shared everything.
Even fans started asking questions. Screenshots of the mortgage docs made the rounds on Reddit and Facebook with captions like Robyn's real priority revealed, and they hide this for years. The mood turned from curiosity to betrayal. Viewers weren't just shocked by the size of the loan, they were floored by the secrecy. And behind the scenes, that's exactly how Janelle allegedly felt too, robbed of transparency, sidelined from the biggest financial move the family ever made. And that's when she started asking out loud, who else knew about this, and was any of her money involved? Because if it was, then Robyn's little white picket fence just became the epicenter of a very big financial scandal. Janelle didn't have to dig too far before things started looking murky. According to insiders, the biggest red flag wasn't even the mortgage itself. It was the down payment, $420,000. That's the kind of cash that doesn't just appear overnight, especially for a family juggling multiple households, shared expenses, and a history of financial strain. And that's when Janelle reportedly started to get suspicious, because back when the mansion was purchased in 2019, the Brown family was still very much in flux. Christine and Janelle were allegedly told that they couldn't move forward with building on Coyote Pass because money was too tight, permits were delayed, budgets were limited, and yet Robyn and Kody were quietly funneling nearly $500,000 into a luxury home. That math wasn't just off, it felt like a betrayal. According to a source familiar with the family's financial structure, Janelle allegedly started reviewing her own records, where certain joint accounts had been drained, where payments had been made without clear explanation. And while there's no confirmed proof that her personal funds were used for the down payment, the lack of transparency has been enough to set her off, because what she reportedly discovered were discrepancies, gaps in the financial story she'd been told. We are not going to let Robyn get away with trying to insinuate that she is somehow good with money and that Janelle just doesn't have her priorities in order when it comes to money. Some fans speculate that Kody may have leveraged family funds under the guise of temporary loans or shared benefits only to reroute them toward Robyn's future. And if that's true, it's no wonder Janelle is demanding answers. Even Meri has allegedly begun to question whether she was unknowingly part of the financing strategy. Years ago, when Robyn was new to the family, Meri was the one who advocated for her legal marriage to Kody, the one who helped with early child care, and according to some, even helped Robyn qualify for previous home loans. But now, watching Robyn settle into a multi-million-dollar property while Meri floats between rentals and Airbnbs, the optics are brutal. One source claims Meri has started telling friends, "I thought I was helping the whole family. Turns out I was just helping them." And here's the kicker. None of this was revealed on camera. Not during family discussions, not during couch interviews, not even during the infamous one-on-ones where Kody has been known to go off script. Fans now believe this wasn't an oversight. It was a cover-up, a calculated effort to keep the other wives and the audience in the dark until the paperwork was locked in and irreversible. And if Janelle's name was even remotely tied to any of those early transactions that could open the door to legal claims, repayment demands, or worse, public exposure of every dollar spent. Because when you follow the money in this family, it never leads where you think it will, and in this case, it just might lead straight to Robyn's front door. By the time Janelle connected the dots, something inside her reportedly snapped. For years, she had played the role of the practical wife, the one who budgeted, who sacrificed, who believed that if she just stuck it out, the dream of Coyote Pass would come true. But that dream had quietly evaporated the moment Robyn's real estate deal closed. Because while Janelle was still mapping out septic systems and permit applications, Robyn was already curled up next to a stone fireplace in her custom-built living room. Sources say Janelle felt humiliated, like she'd been sold a vision of equality only to be left outside the gates, literally and financially. And so insiders claim she stopped being polite. She stopped asking for information and started demanding it. One source close to the family says Janelle confronted Kody directly after learning the full amount of the down payment. "Where did it come from?" she asked. "Was it from our fund? Did you use my share without telling me?" Kody, as usual, allegedly dodged the question. First, he said it came from a separate loan. Then he claimed it was an opportunity they couldn't pass up. Finally, when pressed again, he reportedly turned the blame around, saying that if Janelle had just trusted the process, she would have seen her own house by now, too. That was the moment, sources say, when Janelle realized the process was never going to include her, that all the budgeting, all the patience, all the careful planning she'd done, it had only benefited Robyn. And now she's done playing along. Insiders claim she's looking into every financial transaction linked to the Coyote Pass timeline, asking questions she never would have asked before. Who paid what, when it was transferred? Whether Kody's name was on both sides of the transaction, and perhaps most tellingly, why Robyn never once offered to include the rest of the family in her new home, despite calling it the family house. According to one family friend, Janelle's even considered contacting an attorney, not to sue, not yet, but to get clarity on what she may legally be owed. Because if any of her money was used toward Robyn's mortgage, even accidentally, she could be entitled to reimbursement or a share in the property's equity. And that's not a conversation Robyn's gonna want to have, especially not now, when public support is finally starting to turn. Because for a long time, Robyn played the misunderstood outsider, the shy one, the peacemaker. But this, a secret multi-million-dollar mortgage hidden, while the rest of the wives were waiting for empty promises to come true. This feels different. This feels strategic. And if Janelle really does take this further, the next bombshell might not be emotional. It might be legal. If there's one person no one expected to speak up, it was Meri. For years, she played the quiet loyalist, holding on to her spot in the family, even when love and affection had clearly dried up. But lately, something's changed. Maybe it's the freedom that came with finally walking away from Kody. Maybe it's the sting of realizing she was used as a stepping stone for Robyn's rise. Either way, insiders say Meri is no longer keeping quiet. Because once Janelle began raising questions about the down payment on Robyn's mansion, Meri started thinking back to her own contributions, and what she remembered has allegedly left her reeling back. When the Browns first moved to Flagstaff, money was tight, very tight. The wives were told the family needed to consolidate resources to make a fresh start. And so, according to sources, Meri pitched in not just financially, but emotionally. She gave up her Las Vegas home, downsized her lifestyle, and accepted that her own house dreams would have to wait. But what she didn't realize, what she now reportedly suspects, is that her sacrifices may have funded Robyn's comfort. Because the timing of that $420,000 down payment, it lines up eerily close with a series of shared account withdrawals the wives allegedly discussed in meetings. One insider claims Meri's been going back through her own bank statements. She's seeing payments and transfers that don't add up, amounts withdrawn under the family name that now look suspicious in hindsight. And while no official documents have been leaked, the rumor mill is churning. Some fans believe Meri's finally seeing what Christine and Janelle saw years ago, that Robyn was always playing a longer game, a strategic game, one that involved loyalty on the surface and consolidation of assets behind the scenes. When Janelle and Meri finally sat down privately, away from Kody, away from cameras, the conversation allegedly turned raw. Janelle laid out what she'd found, and Meri's response wasn't denial. It was anger at the idea that the family fund may have been used to secure Robyn's financial future, while the other wives were left with broken promises and rental applications. One source close to the situation says, Meri told Janelle, "We helped build that life, and they built it without us." This new unity between Meri and Janelle is surprising, but not unwelcome. For so long, their relationship had been strained with both women navigating Kody's ever-shifting loyalties. But now they have a common cause, and it's not about jealousy, it's about justice. They want to know exactly where the money went, who signed off, who benefited, and who kept everyone else in the dark. Because this isn't just about real estate anymore, it's about trust. And the sudden realization that for over a decade, one wife may have been playing chess while the others were just trying to keep the family together. Kody, for his part, is doing what he does best when the walls close in, deflecting. When Janelle and Meri allegedly confronted him about the mansion loan, insiders say he slipped into full damage control mode. First came the confusion. What loan? He reportedly asked, as if the signed mortgage docs weren't sitting in black and white on the county records website. Then came the indignation. He allegedly told the women they were blowing things out of proportion, that the house was a family investment, and that they were lucky he and Robyn had handled it without bothering them. But the problem with Kody's story is that it changes every time he tells it. To some, he's framed the mansion as a strategic move, a property that would appreciate in value and someday benefit everyone. But when pressed for details like how equity would be divided or when the rest of the family would see a return, he reportedly offered nothing concrete. Other times, Kody allegedly claims the home was a necessity, that Robyn's younger kids needed stability and space, and that the loan was taken out under emergency circumstances. But no one buys that explanation anymore, because while the other wives were stretching every penny, Robyn and Kody were installing high-end fixtures and hosting family events in their grand living room. It's the contradictions that are catching up to him. Viewers have noticed, fans online have compiled timelines showing how Kody made statements about money being tight just days before closing on the luxury property. Some claim it's proof he was gaslighting the other wives, keeping them in a holding pattern, while he and Robyn quietly secured their empire. And now, with Janelle demanding accountability and Meri pulling receipts, the inconsistencies are becoming harder to dismiss. Sources say Kody's strategy now is to pin the blame on misunderstanding that everyone technically knew about the house, just not the full details, that no one asked about the loan, so he didn't volunteer the information. It's a classic deflection designed to make the wives feel crazy for even raising the issue. But this time, it's not working because the receipts are too detailed, the dollar amounts are too precise, and the emotional damage is already done. What's worse, insiders say, Kody has started turning the tables, accusing Janelle of being ungrateful and paranoid, that her digging is damaging the family. But from Janelle's perspective, the family was damaged. The minute transparency went out the window. She allegedly told one confidant, "He expects us to stay loyal while he builds a future we're not even part of." And that line, it's now circulating across Facebook like wildfire because it captures the heart of this entire scandal. It's not just the money, it's that Robyn and Kody moved forward without looking back, leaving the women who helped build their empire to feel like ghosts in their own story. When Robyn finally broke her silence, it wasn't during a press conference or a formal statement. It was through one of her classic teed interviews. Always the emotional one, always the misunderstood wife. She framed the mansion deal not as a betrayal, but as a painful misunderstanding. "We just wanted a stable home," she reportedly said, voice trembling. The kids needed somewhere to grow up without all the chaos, and while some fans were sympathetic, others saw straight through the performance. Because while Robyn may be good at crying on cue, the numbers don't lie. A $2.1 million home with a nearly $1.7 million mortgage is not a desperate move, it's a calculated one. Sources close to production claimed that Robyn was aware of the optics and was advised to soften her tone to avoid further backlash, but the damage is done. Her image as the shy, awkward outsider has all but crumbled. Now she's seen as the one who benefited most while playing innocent the entire time. When she said the house was for the family, she didn't mention that the paperwork had only her and Kody's names on it. When she said they were sacrificing too, she failed to explain how her sacrifices came with central air and walk-in closets. And when asked why Janelle and Meri weren't included in the decision-making process, Robyn allegedly shrugged and said, "We didn't want to cause more stress." But if Robyn was trying to avoid stress, this plan backfired spectacularly because now the spotlight is on her like never before. Social media lit up after the loan details emerged, with one viral comment reading, "Robyn always cries about being judged, but she built a palace and left the others in the dust." Fans are combing through old episodes, piecing together hints and inconsistencies. One Reddit user even tracked scenes where Robyn said she was waiting on Coyote Pass, two filmed just months after she'd already moved into the mansion. That little detail it sent viewers into a tailspin. Janelle, meanwhile, isn't buying a single tear. Sources close to her say she sees the performance for what it is. Damage control. It's always emotional manipulation. One insider said she acts like she's been wronged, but she's the one sitting on a $2 million house while everyone else downsized or moved out. Even Meri, who used to defend Robyn against critics, has allegedly gone quiet, and that silence, it speaks volume. What's becoming increasingly clear is that Robyn's emotional tactics aren't working the way they used to. The narrative has shifted. She's no longer the victim. She's the one being questioned. And if she thought she could cry her way through this latest revelation, she may have underestimated just how deep this fracture really goes. Because what comes next isn't just about explanations, it's about consequences. As Robyn deflected and Kody spun his stories, the elephant in the room only grew louder. Coyote passed the sacred patch of land that was supposed to unify the family, now sitting untouched and empty like a monument to everything that went wrong. When they first bought that land, the Browns talked about building 4 homes, living as one community, raising their children side by side in harmony. It was ambitious. It was emotional. It was allegedly a lie. Because while Janelle was out there with her measuring tape and hope in her heart, trying to plan a modest build on her slice of the property, Robyn and Kody were already laying down roots in their mansion, miles away in more ways than one. Fans have been pointing this out for years. But only now is it really sinking in. While the other wives were holding on to the Coyote, past dream like a lifeline, Robyn had already opted out. She had no interest in building there, no real stake in the shared vision, and the proof is in the paperwork. Not only did she and Kody invest in an entirely separate property, but they also allegedly stopped contributing to shared expenses for Coyote Pass shortly after moving in. Sources say that while Janelle was still making payments and covering property taxes, Robyn redirected her funds toward her own home and never told anyone. The emotional whiplash is real for Janelle. This isn't just a betrayal of trust, it's the death of a dream. She spent years defending the plural family model, believing that someday they'd all be neighbors again, that the kids could play together, that holidays would feel whole. But now, standing on a dry patch of Arizona dirt, all she sees is broken promises and wasted time. And the longer she looks at that land, the more she wonders, was it always just a distraction? A way to keep her hopeful, while Robyn carved out a private future. What makes it worse is the timing. Robyn and Kody closed on their mansion right when tensions around Coyote Pass were peaking. Christine was pulling away. Meri was isolated. Janelle was barely hanging on. And instead of doubling down on unity, they doubled down on granite countertops and 3-car garages. It sends a message that can't be unsent. They were done waiting. They were done pretending. And the rest of the family left to sort through the ruins of a plan that never included them. Now, with the loan exposed and Robyn's role under scrutiny, fans are asking the one question Janelle's been asking herself. Was the Coyote Pass vision ever real, or was it just the smoke OKC screen Robyn needed while she quietly built a life the rest of them were never meant to enter? Because if that land was the dream, then Robyn's mansion was the escape route. When whispers of lawyers entering the picture started circulating, fans thought it was just internet noise. But now insiders say those whispers weren't just gossip, they were a warning. According to sources close to the family, Janelle and Meri have begun privately consulting with legal advisors, not necessarily to sue, but to understand their rights, specifically, their financial rights. Because if any of their money past or present was diverted to help fund Robyn's down payment or mortgage without full disclosure, that could open up a serious conversation about restitution. And that's a word Kody and Robyn do not want to hear. It's not just about who paid what, it's about what was promised. For years, the family operated under a loose system of shared funds, where money would go into a general pool and be distributed as needed. But the problem with loose systems is that they depend on trust, and once trust breaks, all that's left is paper trails and silence. Now that Janelle is reportedly combing through old records and identifying potential overlaps between family withdrawals and Robyn's purchase timeline, there's growing concern, especially among Kody's camp, that this might escalate into formal claims. One family friend explained it this way: when money crosses state lines, bank accounts, and marriage boundaries, things get messy fast. If Janelle or Meri can prove they contributed financially to the purchase even unknowingly, they may be entitled to compensation. That means Robyn could find herself not only answering questions from family, but potentially answering them in court. And let's be real, a lawsuit between former sister wives would explode across headlines faster than any plot twist TLC could manufacture. It doesn't help that Robyn and Kody have stayed tight-lipped since the documents surfaced. Aside from Robyn's emotional interview and Kody's defensive posturing, neither has provided any concrete proof that the funds used were exclusively theirs. No statements, no receipts, just vague justifications and more misdirection. And that silence, it's starting to look a lot like avoidance. Meanwhile, Janelle has reportedly shifted her tone entirely. Where she used to say things like, "I'm just trying to keep the peace," she's now allegedly saying, "I want what's mine." And Meri, too, is no longer biting her tongue. According to a source close to her, she's reviewing whether assets promised to her under their plural marriage agreement were ever actually honored. If they weren't, and if those funds somehow bolstered Robyn's position, it could lead to more than just an emotional reckoning. This is no longer about a dream home or a forgotten piece of land. This is about accountability, about what happens when decades of communal sacrifice culminate in one person's private gain. And if legal documents start flying, Robyn might wish she'd shared more than just a tearful apology, because forgiveness is optional, but financial disclosure that's about to become mandatory. In the end, it might not be the mansion itself that breaks what's left of the Brown family. It's what it represents. That $2.1 million house, perched high above Flagstaff with its gated driveway and sweeping views, has become a symbol not of success, not of unity, but of separation, of secrets, of the quiet power Robyn has amassed behind closed doors, while everyone else was still clinging to the illusion of one family. And now, with the loan exposed and the emotional fallout cascading through every branch of the family tree, it's clear that this wasn't just a home purchase. It was the final fracture in a story that had been splintering for years. Janelle's transformation is perhaps the most telling. The woman who once balanced checkbooks for the family, who defended Kody's leadership, even when it cost her comfort, is now demanding transparency, like a woman who's done being left out of the room where decisions are made. She's reportedly telling friends she doesn't want revenge, she wants the truth. And if that truth confirms what she suspects, she wants her cut, her investment, her respect. because for too long she stayed silent to keep the peace, only to realize the peace was never built for her benefit. Meri's shift is just as profound. Once labeled as clingy bitter or out of touch by critics and even family, she's now rising with a sense of purpose, not to rekindle what was lost, but to reclaim what was promised. If Robyn's lavish lifestyle was built on a foundation Meri helped pour, whether emotionally or financially, then her silence will no longer be part of the blueprint, and if necessary, she'll put her name on the line to correct the story. As for Robyn, the shine is fading. The narrative of the misunderstood fourth wife no longer fits. Fans aren't buying the tears or the trembling voice. Not when the evidence points to years of accumulation, of loyalty from Kody, of quiet control over finances, of a lifestyle no other wife was offered. And Kody's continued refusal to address the optics only fuels the fire. Because in a world where perception is everything, this latest revelation has made it crystal clear Robyn wasn't just favored, she was funded. So where does the family go from here? It's hard to say. The damage is done. The documents are public, and the trust that once held them together has shattered. Whether this explodes into legal action or fades into silence, one thing is certain: there's no going back. Not after this. Do you think Robyn should be forced to repay anything? And was the mansion deal the final proof that the family dream was never real? Be sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more insider truth bombs, because the next video on your screen is waiting. And trust me, you won't want to miss it.